Hello, Misfits, and welcome. In last week's video, I talked about how to get your players to roleplay more, and I mentioned that it's important for your players to have backstories for their characters, but I don't have a video about how to create a backstory for your character, so that's what today's video is going to be about. We're going to delve into the process of creating a backstory and how to sort of flesh that out so that you can pull from these different things to get into roleplay more and things like that. Now, I should say, this is what I do, this is what I encourage my players to do, but everybody's going to be different. Every table's going to have their own preferences and things that they like and dislike. So, take this with a grain of salt, use what you like, ignore the rest. And if you're a player, make sure that you talk with your DM or GM about all of this. That's the most important. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So first, we're going to talk about some basics, okay? There's some kind of standard things that we need to set up for our character. So let's get into that. I kind of call this like the background basics, okay? So number one, does your character have parents? More than one? Just one? Do they have parents, okay? Number two, does your character have siblings, brothers and sisters? Do they not? Answer that question. The next one is, what about other family members, okay? Maybe you don't have parents, but you have an aunt or an uncle. Or maybe you got parents, you got multiple siblings, and you've got, like, cousins and aunts and uncles. Maybe you have a real big family. Think about that. So, do you have other family members? And, we could also sort of lump, like, found family into this. So maybe you don't have, like, a blood relative, but you have somebody that acts as family for you. I would definitely kind of roll that into all of this. Next. Are you from a rural place or an urban place? Are you from the countryside or are you from the city? Do you sort of wander through the wilderness or, are you sleeping in the gutter? Answer those questions, rural or urban. And then the last of my basics, my absolute basics are basically how much money does your character have? What kind of lifestyle do they live? Are they rich? Are they poor? Are they somewhere in between, middle class? So these are kind of 5 basic things that we need to have for our character. Parents, siblings, other family, rural or urban, and then how much money do you have, okay? So those are the basics. Now we move into some more specific things that are a little bit more character-driven, a little bit more into the nitty-gritty that you might be expecting and looking for. So next, what are your character's strengths? Now, some of these can be pulled from your ability scores, or maybe you want to make these decisions first and have your scores reflect that, depending on how you and your table do scores. Do you do point buy or standard array? Whatever. If you get a really strong number, and you've decided that you want your character to be really, really charismatic, then you might want to take that strong number and put it into charisma. So what are your character's strengths? And most importantly, this is the next one, what are your character's flaws? In my mind, no interesting character is perfect. Our favorite characters are the ones that make mistakes or the ones that have to overcome things in order to succeed. So what are your character's flaws? This can also be tied to those ability scores. Maybe there's something that you're really bad at, like you got no strength at all. Maybe that's part of your flaw, that you're weak. Maybe you have very low charisma and that's part of your flaw. You're just too blunt and practical and you're not really good at talking your way out of scenarios or making friends. Or maybe, you've got a lot of street smarts, but you lack sort of the knowledge or wisdom for other aspects of life. So what are your character's flaws? These also don't have to be tied to your ability scores. They could be, kind of more nuanced than that, but that's sort of up to you. Next, what are your short-term goals, okay? Your most immediate goal, okay? Normally for my characters, I encourage them to pick a short-term goal that they are right at the start of the campaign, that's what they're trying to do. And normally it's something really simple, like get from point A to point B, or talk to a person, or buy an item, or something like that. It's a very small, kind of more mundane task that they're trying to accomplish immediately. But the next one is long-term goals. What are your characters' long-term goals? This is going to be something that's going to carry you through the whole campaign. This is your overarching kind of quest or goal. You know, maybe you lost your parents and your long-term goal is to avenge their death or bring them back to life. I don't know, things like that. You've got a bunch of different sort of ways that you could take that. But we've got a short-term goal and a long-term goal. Okay, so those are all the basics, okay? That's like the bare minimum that I think everybody should do. Hit those background basics: strengths, flaws, short-term goals, long-term goals. Now, this is where things get more interesting, okay? After answering all of those questions, we need to delve deeper. We need to flesh all of these things out. So let's go back to the basics, okay? Those very first things that we talked about: parents, siblings, family, how much money you have, all of that. We need to flesh these out. What is the strength of your relationships with these people, and why? You know, if you have an estranged parent, why is it like that? Did they abandon you? Did they kick you out? Did they steal from you? Did they try to force you into a marriage you didn't want? Did they try to force you down a path that you didn't want to go down? You know, what is your relationship to them and why? If you have really, really loving parents, is there a reason for that? Like you had to overcome something together, or you've had to bond and be close to each other because the world around you is so harsh. You know, why? That's really the question we're answering for all of these. And that applies to, you know, your siblings and your other family members as well. What is your relationship to them? Why? Next, why do you live where you do and have the money that you have? So if you live in a poor place, why is that? Is it because your family, you know, have more lower income jobs? They're farmers, they're servants, I don't know. Or if you live in a really wealthy place, is it because you are born into a wealthy family? Or is it because your father is a very well-to-do merchant? Did you steal a bunch of money and that's why you live well these days? Why do you live where you do and have the money that you have? So again, we're just fleshing this out a little bit more, adding these other layers to this. Next, why are you good at the skill that you have? Or why do you have the flaw that you have? You know, why do you have these skills or flaws? If you're really good at sneaking around, why is that? Is that because you're poor and you're constantly trying to steal and pickpocket in order to get by? Is that why you're good at being stealthy? If you're really, really charismatic, is it because, you know, you studied to be a performer? Is it because you were brought up having to schmooze with a bunch of different merchants and nobles? You know, why is it that you have that skill? If you know, like to take things, why is that? Is that because, you know, you're still worried about money and you take the shiny things when you see them because you don't know if you'll have enough money to pay for, you know, a place to sleep? If you are bad at, I don't know, commitment to your friends and family, why is that? Is that because they stabbed you in the back one time and you just struggle to trust them? Why do you have that flaw? You know, all these different layers to this character that we're building. Next, why are these your goals? This is for short-term and long-term goals. Why? Why do you have these goals? Why do you need to go talk to this person? Is it because you think they have a lead on your missing parents, and that's why your parents are gone, because they're missing? Why do you need to get to this location? Is it because you're wanted in this other town and you need to get away and get somewhere safe? Is it because your sibling is in that location? You're trying to go and travel and meet up with them? You know, why do you have these short-term goals? And then why do you have these long-term goals, you know? Are you hunting down somebody because you're avenging your friends? Are you looking for an item because you think it will bring your sister back to life? Why do you have these goals? And then last, how far are you willing to go to achieve them? So yeah, this sort of is building out your character. It's helping us understand what drives this character you've created and how you intend to play them. If they hold fast and true to their goals and it is life or death for them to accomplish these tasks, then that's going to tell you a lot about how to play them in the game. If, you know, these goals are important to them, but you know, it's not worth their life or other people's lives, again, that tells you a lot about how you might play that character and how they might approach other scenarios and problems. If it's not that big a deal to them, or if it's not so important that it's worth the risk of death, then their goals might be subject to change as the campaign plays out and carries out. There are certainly so many more things that you can think about when creating your character. This is just a jumping off point. This is just a place to start. But I do think these are really, really important questions that you need to be able to answer about your character. And I think once you have an answer to all of these, you will know so much about what kind of character you're jumping into, how you want to play them, what kinds of skills you want them to have, how they want to approach different scenarios and problems, how they'll interact with the rest of the party. All of those things get answered by how you go about fleshing this out and creating this character and hitting all of these points. So, I hope that is extremely helpful to you. I have certainly gone through sort of a process of kind of refining the backstory creation kind of aspect of creating a character. I didn't know exactly what to do at the start. In my first campaign, most of the players just carried over their characters from the previous campaign that I didn't even DM. So I didn't know everybody's backstory. For people that did make new characters, I just said, hey, make a backstory. But I didn't tell them what to do or how to do it or what I was looking for. I didn't even get a backstory for everybody. You know, it was very vague, but I learned a lot from that. I learned from my mistakes in that first campaign, and I tried to fix it in the next one. And so we had a bunch of different questions that I would have them answer. We actually used a lot of the Explorer's Guide to Wildmount book has a bunch of rollable tables for character creation that has a lot of things similar to this. And I didn't make my players roll for all of it. I let them decide if they wanted to roll or choose. But you're rolling for things like, yeah, what kind of town you're from, how many siblings you have, what's your relationship to each of them, do you have allies or rivals elsewhere in the world? It was a bunch of stuff, but it was almost too much stuff. And because it was this other table for this other campaign setting, it wasn't entirely applicable to our campaign. There were a lot of things I had to change, and there were some things that, like, all right, I had a lot of information, but it wasn't all useful. It wasn't all, like, something that I could easily incorporate. But for my most recent campaign, this is kind of more the route that I've adopted. And it's worked really well for us. I feel like I have everything that I absolutely need to know, but I also have so much wiggle room to kind of expand and flesh it out if I need to, if that makes sense. I've kind of tried to keep all of this broad and vague so that you have room to put your own spin on things and to be as creative as you want to be. But that basically concludes my process of fleshing out a backstory for your character. This is great for players, but also it's good for DMs to be able to know the kinds of questions they might want to ask their players, and also helps you flesh out the backstories of your own NPCs and villains and things like that. But yeah, so I hope this was helpful for you. If you enjoyed it, liked it, found any of it helpful, please feel free to like and subscribe. That really, really helps me out. More importantly, leave me a comment below. Tell me about your process of fleshing out a backstory. Tell me what you do, the kinds of questions that you think are vital to have answered. But with all of that said and done, I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and I will see you again next time. I cannot wait until summer. I'm counting the days. I think I got 4 weeks left of school and teaching, and I cannot wait for the summer. Summer means more time to relax, more time to enjoy the things I enjoy, like games and shows and movies, and it means I can travel. And I just look forward to any of that. I'm sure it's different for everybody because, depending on what jobs and stuff you have and where you live, your vacations and holidays might be a little bit different. But, if summer is something that you look forward to, that gives you a little bit more freedom, what are some things that you enjoy doing in the summer when you finally have some time to breathe and think and relax? I'd love to hear about that. Anyway, have a good day, guys.